Hello, Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, and hello, Sofia Carson. Thank you guys both for joining us today on the world's largest lesson live. I'm so excited to be able to speak with you both about education and its importance and how we're all sort of having to cope in different ways, even with how we're learning during this unique time. And I think that's something that we're all dealing with, is missing people and being around people. Now, Sofia, if I can ask you to think back to your time as a teenager, what do you think would have been on your mind right now?
You know, I think about when I was a teenager and when school was, my whole world. It was my favorite place to be. And I can imagine that I would feel confused and I would feel worried and I would feel, I'm sure, frustrated, mainly scared. And I know that a lot of kids and teenagers are feeling exactly those things. And I can imagine those feelings being so heightened, especially if you're a student who lives in a family or in a home that is perhaps unstable, perhaps economically unstable, emotionally unstable, where the student is unsure of if they'll be able to continue their school because they don't have a laptop, or worried about where their next meal will come from.
I want to dig in and hear kind of in your guys' personal experiences from traveling the world and the different experiences that you have had. Why is it that an education is so important? If we could dig in on that why, how does it make a difference in a child's life? If you don't mind, if I could start with you, DSG.
Well, when you start to reflect about where you are today and what did education do to help you get to where you are, I think it's a number of things. First, the ability to communicate. It's so simple, but when I go back to the schools that I went to so many years ago, today, the numbers coming out of those classrooms that cannot read or write in English or in the local language, they are huge. So they're not able to communicate. And I think we take for granted how important communicating is. But communicating and engaging with issues that you learn about in your society, in your community, that teach you respect and tolerance, and that there is strength in diversity and that everyone is equal. I think those are things that we took for granted, but were a very big part of our education. The investment in education, it allows you to go to the stars and back, to imagine your future, to hope and to be inspired by others like ourselves. I think all of us had inspirations as we grew up, but to be like them, you needed an education, and an education is freedom. It allows you to go places that you could not otherwise go.
Wow, I love what you just said. It can allow you to go to the stars and back. Sofia, what do you think from your experiences of traveling and seeing different children of different cultures, and what it is that you think an education means in those young lives?
An education is not only something that changes lives, but as I've seen with my work with UNICEF, something that saves lives as well. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that schools have become so much more than just, four walls that hold books. They are a refuge, they're a home, they're a shelter, they are the place where lives are saved. I'll never forget when I traveled to Brazil with UNICEF last summer, and I had the privilege of holding in my arms young women who opened their hearts to us and shared with us their stories about how quite literally before they walk through the halls of their school, their lives are at risk.
We are going to have one other person join us. It's my great pleasure to invite Adrian Harabos from Prague to join the call. I believe he has an important question for you both.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. It's a great honor to be here. So my question, it can sometimes feel in school that education is just about passing a test or receiving a good grade. So what aspects to education do you think are really important?
For me, as a performer and as a singer and an actor, maybe in school you can find passions and creative outlets that otherwise you wouldn't have discovered, and you could light fires, and you take an art class and you find an outlet through art, or when I took music class, and that was my escape. Thank you for asking such a wise and thoughtful question.
Thank you for answering.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Adrian. And I think it's really important to remember the courage of your convictions. You learn in school what matters to you. And you have to take that courage with you, because the courage of the convictions give you your integrity. They give you a sense of dignity that you can move with. And you really never know where you will be in life. I never had any imagination that my career track would take me to the #2 person in the United Nations.
Absolutely. And I love specifically, Adrian, the way that you asked that question, because I do think that day to day, a lot of times it can feel like it's just taking this test or getting this grade. And I'm grateful to both of these women for expanding that out and helping us look at it. And actually, Adrian, I would love if you could stick around. I want to hear from you also in my final question, if I could hear from all three of you. Right now, we know that school feels different. We know that education feels different. There are certainly things that we're missing about being in our classrooms and with our friends and seeing our teachers every day. But are there any elements that have come from doing school differently right now because of this crisis that we can take forward? Can it help us reimagine the future of education at all?
I'm in this school of lifelong learning. And so I will say that one of the things that has happened to me is that this pause button that COVID has caused for all of us is one of deep reflection. And I see an opportunity to build back better and to reimagine education, where this is the opportunity for that intergenerational shift from my generation to the next generation that gets a chance to shape that education. This is a time for rebirthing. It's a time for thinking about our humanity, about our tolerance. I mean, we hear all the dark side of the world today, but there's so much brighter because of this huge cohort of youth, the tools that we have, and the opportunity for leadership. Where there's a vacuum, young people fill it. Don't dwell on where there's no leadership, just fill it with good leadership. And education will get you a long way in making sure we get the right leadership.
Absolutely. And I hope that even that right there gives our audience some hope to hear that they can absolutely be part of the solution. Sophia, what about you? Anything that you'd like to see that sort of continue moving forward?
Despite the unprecedented circumstances that we have been in, we've also seen both students and teachers go above and beyond to ensure that education continues. And I hope that there's so much from what we've experienced that we carry with us and we take with us after today.
Absolutely. And Adrian, as someone who's going through this right now, is there anything that you can sort of see that you want to take with you from this time to help reimagine what this can look like going forward?
I feel that there are some key elements in online learning, but as DSG and Sofia said, actually going to school and the social interactions you have there is definitely irreplaceable. But as they said, school isn't only about getting good grades and learning how to, it's about learning how to work with people, learning how to be organized and how to be kind to others. And when I reimagine the future of education, I'd like to see everyone having equal access to online learning and technology.
Absolutely. And I think that this particular crisis that we're in has highlighted some of that, some of the differences that exist. I think it's helped a little bit with getting more people set up, but it's something that we know we have to focus on going forward. And this certainly made that of even more importance that we've all been able to see. You guys, what a great conversation. Thank you so much. Thanks for fielding all the questions. Adrian, thank you for joining us and for your great questions. DSG and Sophia, I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you so much.